Good, Josh.
All right, Scott, are we good on your end? Okay, here we go. All right, welcome everyone who's attending and those viewing online to this meeting of the McLean County Board Property Committee for Thursday, November 5th, 2020. First order of business is roll call. We'll just note that everyone is in attendance except for member Friedrich and member Bloomfield. Second order of business, approval of the minutes for October 1st, 2020 from our regular meeting. Would entertain a motion from the committee for approval of that. Motion by member Smith, second by member Johnston. Any discussion or corrections of the minutes? All right, hearing none. Ms. Murlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Thank you. Member Beard?
Yes.
Member Johnston?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Chairman Barnett?
Yes. Motion is approved. Thank you. Do we have appearance by members of the public today?
Chairman Barnett, we do not.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Going on to item number 4, departmental matters. 4A, Mr. Steffa, our Director of Parks and Recreation. Welcome to the meeting.
Thanks. Hello to everybody. Not to sound like a broken record, but the only thing I have today is an update on the sewage treatment plant project. We did finally get a proposal back from Stewart Spreading. After I looked at it, I sent it down to the administrator's office and let Camille and Kathy and Cassie look at it. I think we're all in agreement that they didn't itemize what the costs were. They just gave us a lump sum. So I have requested that they resend a proposal out, itemizing everything. But currently the gentleman that does handle that, yesterday he was going in for outpatient surgery. So I'm hoping he's not out of work for too long. But and I do need to apologize for something. I thought we had a verbal agreement for them to go ahead and start the permitting process to the Illinois Department of Public Health, and I find out now that we need to sign the agreement before they will start that permitting process. So I'm hoping within the next week or two that we will have that new proposal broken down into an itemized cost list. But I can tell you lump sum of the project, and I will tell you something after I give you this figure. The lump sum is $136,000 for everything. Now that will be, a lot of that cost will be contingent on how much of the actual water or the sewage water that's on top of the lagoon will have to be pumped out of there. And then they will have to take that either up to El Paso or Gridley to their sewage treatment facility. And obviously we're going to get charged for that. So to minimize that cost, what we've been doing is slowly drawing that down to lower the volume. We've been making some good progress. The good, the bad about that, it sounds like this weekend we're going to be pretty busy in the campground again, because I checked in approximately 25 to 30 people that just came in off the road today. And I took several dozen phone calls, people wanting to camp. So we're going to see that volume kick back up. So what we've drained off may get refilled up after this weekend. But the good part about this time of the year is we can there'll be low flow I'm sure after this weekend, it looks like the long range forecast, it's going to come back down to December or November, December degrees temperature. So we will make a good progress on that. We've been going down to the sewage treatment plant every morning and every evening and letting the pump run into our sand filter pit. So like I said, we have been making some good progress on that. But basically, after we sign a proposal, when a formal proposal is brought forth to the property committee, basically, then the permitting process will begin. So right now, again, 2 to 4 months for the permitting process. So if we have any contacts downstate to where we could maybe speed that process up, I don't know if Mr. Brady has any political pull down there. I'm not asking for a favor, but anything to get the process speeded up would be great. But so basically, we'll wait for that. As soon as that's signed, the process is they'll start pumping the water off that. It'll be taken to, like I said, El Paso or Gridley, and then the dredging will begin. And then after the dredging, they slurry it into tank trucks, and then they've already got have farmers around this area, around McLean and Woodford County, that have said they will take that, and basically they will spread that on their fields and knife it in, and that's basically what will happen. And then we'll have to, the Parks Department will have to look at the inflow pipe, because we're gonna see if some reconfiguring needs to be done. I am guessing that we will need to have something redone on that, but it shouldn't be too involved. I'm fairly confident with that. So other than that, we'll install a new inflow meter, and then we should be back up and running. So I think that was the permit from the state was not in that lump sum of $136,000. The permit is $2,500 that would have to come out of our budget. So just so we know that, I'm assuming that more than likely it'll come out of 2021 fiscal year budget. I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Mr. Steffa, is there, how long, once the permit is issued, will it take them to get the project ready so that it can be distributed to the area farmers?
We are at the top of their list. So they've assured me that the process would begin within 1 to 2 weeks of receiving that permit back from the IDPH.
So hopefully this will be able to get done in time for the farmers to be able to apply it before, planting starts.
Oh yeah, it will be. They won't apply it. Stewart Spreading will do all the applying. They will spread it out, and then they'll come back in with a tractor and what they call a knife, and knife it into the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Member Thompson.
Excuse me. I guess my first question is, explain to me again why this started in what, April, May? And it's not even done yet in November. And I, as a farmer, that you're going to come in and pull big tanks out in my fields after the weather turns, that's probably going to be a problem for you. So I guess here's my question is, where's the delay been?
The delay has been in the process for doing the sampling is what took 2.5 months from Peoria Disposal over in Peoria to get the lab results back. When they got those, when Stewart Spreading got those results back, they did question the percentage of solids in the sewage treatment plant. They thought it was way too high. So they came back at no charge. They came down to the park and did sampling again, just for a percentage of sampling or percentage of solids, excuse me. And our percentage is more than twice the amount that they have ever seen in a sewage treatment plant. So we're sitting right now at least 25% solids, and normally they say 10 to 12% is the normal. So that's where a lot of the delay came. I was under the impression that after talking to Greg Halmaji from Stewart Spreading, that I gave him the go-ahead verbally to start the permitting process. I assumed, so it was my fault, I assumed, and he agreed to it, that he was going to start the process. But now I found out last week when he sent me the proposal that he doesn't start the process until we sign the proposal.
If I follow up, so do we have an idea on the additional cost of hauling the extra liquid out? I guess my question goes to, at some point, maybe do we need to shut off usage of the facility? I understand we're shutting people off and there's fees not collected, but are those fees greater than the additional cost of hauling out the additional liquid? I'm just asking. It seems to me that I don't know. Has there been an analysis of that?
Yeah, that $136,000 is part of hauling the liquid off.
I understand, but you said if they have additional water, they're going to have to haul more water, and we continue to have campers that continue to put water in.
Yeah, but in the wintertime, the flow comes to a stop, basically, or maybe a drip.
I understand that, but you said they're going to be continuing to use the facility, right?
Yeah, this weekend, because of the weather's going to be warm, but after this weekend, well,
Okay.
for one thing, we'll start shutting everything down after this weekend anyway. The shower house gets shut down, the water gets shut off, and probably a week after that, the following week, we will shut the sewage treatment plant down. So then, even if the weather's nice or not, the people are gonna have to be self-contained units or use the outhouses at the park. So, and those outhouses have vaults, pit vaults, so there won't be any flow basically after next week.
That's good. One final question. Could you give me an idea, sense of how big an area physically this is?
I can, but not right now. I don't have my figures with me. As far as volume, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I do have those figures. I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me.
Do you have an estimate? Are we talking 100 by 200, 300-400 by 1,000?
No, you're probably the first example you gave was probably more like 100 by 200. I don't even think it's that, actually. It's probably more like 75 by maybe 150.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know the legalities of things, but if it's okay, I can send you, if I can email those to you, or I can email those to the administrator's office, and because I've got everything, I had to figure all that out before I sent those samples off to Peoria Disposal.
The administrator's office would be happy to receive those, Mr. Steffa, and send them to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Thompson. Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Mr. Steffa, I can't speak for the whole committee, but I guess for myself, once we sort of get past this process of cleaning this up, I would at least be interested in a presentation from you, just sort of detailing, going into the future. Is there an annual check that happens with this, or is that a biannual thing? How does that work? What's the plan to make sure that we don't find ourselves in this position again in 10 years? And no one in this meeting right now may even be, part of the county 10 years from now, and who knows, but just to sort of forecast out for the future and make sure that we're keeping a good handle on that.
Right. Yeah, totally understand that. We now know that sewage treatment plant lagoon has never been dredged in the 40 some odd years that it's been in existence. After this is done, I've talked to Greg Halmaji from Stewart Spreading. He said normally 10 to 12 years is when they do the dredging. So I wouldn't anticipate. I think the reason why, I know the reason why the figure's so high, this $136,000, is because there's going to be so much a volume of sludge that's going to come out of this that they're going to have to do more hauling and more time spent dredging. And so unless prices go skyrocketing in the next 10 to 12 years, I would anticipate that to be a lot lower than it is now.
Okay. Outside of the TIT, anything else to share with the committee?
No, we're just we're pretty much starting to winterize stuff now. Didn't expect the warm weather this weekend, so like I said, we held off. Normally we shut down the water and shut the shower house down November 1st. I tend to keep an eye on the long range forecast, saw that it was going to be warm, so we decided to keep that open until next week. It looks like the first next week the weather's going to take a change on us, and it's going to get back to normal temperatures in the 40s. So next week we'll be, including myself, we'll be blowing the water lines out, shutting water lines down. We'll be winterizing the shower house. Since we really didn't use the beach house, shower house, it really doesn't need a whole lot. Basically, we just have to blow the lines out there, and that's a really simple process. So more than likely by Tuesday, everything's going to be shut down.
Okay. Thank you for the report. We appreciate it.
Sure. I'll stay on here in case somebody else has any questions at the end.
Anything, any general questions for Mr. Steffa before we move on? Okay, very good. All right, moving through the agenda, item 4B, Mr. Doherty, our facilities director. Welcome, sir. Good to have you here as always.
Thank you, Chairman Barnett.
Mr. Doherty, I will leave it up to you. I know the order that things are in the agenda, but if you'd prefer to start with your monthly report before we go through action items, that's completely up to you.
I'm fine to just follow the agenda, sir.
Okay, very good. First item there is 4B1A, request approval of service agreement renewal with Johnson Controls for fire alarm protection service on pages 3 to 5 within the packet. Motion for approval by Member Smith, second by Vice Chair Beard. Mr. Doherty, the floor is yours for presentation.
This is pretty simple. This is just an annual renewal with Johnson Controls. Legal did go through the terms and conditions with JCI, Johnson Controls, and made several modifications, so I feel real comfortable with that. The only other thing I can say about this is it does reflect approximately a 3.5% increase over last year, cost-wise. But other than that, everything's pretty customary and typical for the annual renewal.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from the committee? All right. Seeing none, Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. Item 4B, 1B on the agenda is request approval of an amendment to the sale and installation agreement with Johnson Controls.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Doherty.
Okay. This is basically a repair item. We've got an audio card that enunciates into the building, and it's got a lot of static on it. And this is it's a few months old now, so basically it is what it is. It does interlock with the elevator, and so it'll take elevator technician as well as Johnson Controls here to go through this process. But it's just a routine repair. Well, I wouldn't call it routine. It's a necessary repair to our fire alarm system, and likewise the terms and conditions were worked through by our legal and Johnson Controls legal. So,
All right. I entertain a motion for approval from the committee. A motion by Member Thompson, second by Member Smith. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Borlaug, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, 4B 1C, request approval to accept recommended bid for the roof replacement project at the History Museum. What we'd like to do before we get into actually taking any motions at all from the committee, we have Mr. Paul Charnett here with us from Charnett and Associates, who's going to give us a presentation on the museum roof. You should have all received an email. I believe it went out mid-afternoon today from Ms. Morlock with a memo in it from Mr. Charnett detailing through the roof replacement at the museum and what all is involved with that, as well as some photos of the current state of the roof. Does everyone have that file? Okay. All right, great. Mr. Charnett, welcome to the property committee. We're excited to have you here. Thank you for the good work you and your team have been doing on the museum roof.
Well, thank you very much for having us. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to work for you all and to be working in our community. It's a gem. We love the History Museum, if I could call it that, rather than 200 North Main. It is a beautiful building, and it is really the icon of downtown. So we are very pleased to be working on it, and we're very pleased to have been a part of its history. I'm going to take a minute, and I just want to share sort of the state of the roof, and I'm going to share my screen if you all can see that. You should be seeing kind of an ugly picture of the interior of the attic space. And I won't belabor this. I think you all are very aware of the roof needs replaced badly. I just want to show you some of the conditions and take a minute to really understand what's happening. What you're looking at here on the bottom side is clay tile. Clay tile hasn't been used for quite a long time. We use metal roof decks and things now. But clay tile is very brittle. And it's a very good system in that it will carry quite a bit of weight, but it's brittle. And it's also 100 years old. At this point, we have some limitations when we start talking about the roof. We can't put too much weight on the thing because it will start cracking. We don't expect a lot of failure, but movement is a bad thing. We don't want a lot of movement. What you're also seeing here, these vertical rods, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but these vertical rods that are kind of running through the middle of the picture, those are supporting the plaster ceiling down below. And so that plaster ceiling is suspended from this clay tile system up above. And I'm sharing this just so you kind of get a general idea of how this roof is constructed. I'm going to pop to the outside now, and I just want to show you a few patches. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. A few of the patches that have been made. There are enormous spots of damage to the roof that really have to have something done with them. This is a unique condition. So this is a roof. It's a beautiful building. It's unlike any other building around it, which also means that it has challenges unlike any other building around it. In this instance, what we're dealing with, we have that beautiful limestone balustrade that runs around the exterior of it. Well, it also creates a unique condition in the limestone gutters. And so there are, yeah, I guess it's that one. There are some interesting juxtapositions here where we have to deal with things like snow and rain and making sure that any debris has a place to escape. Well, we have some challenges in the termination of this roof. You can see a white roof here, and then you see a black roof right next to it. These two roofing systems are there because the limestone gutter on the exterior needs a different application than what's happening on the roof around it. We're trying to eliminate that. And we're trying to eliminate that because it creates a point of failure, and we don't want points of failure. And that black limestone gutter goes all the way around, or that black lining on the limestone gutter goes around all the way around the building. And we have to make sure that as the roof slopes down, where it hits these little newel posts on either end of the balustrade, those newel posts have some kind of flashing being used on them. Well, interestingly enough, that is not a typical condition. And so, again, old buildings, different details, things that have to happen on it. So it happens throughout the roof, and you can see some of the patches that have failed and some of the areas where the roof is just delaminating. There's just not much we can do to continue to repair this thing. It desperately needs replaced. So now that I've made a case for replacing the roof, I'm zooming in on one of these newels. What you're seeing here is cut limestone, all gussied up with some beautiful sealant. There are only so many ways we can seal some of these things. And what we have to do when we go back with a new roof, we have to remove that stuff. That stuff is incompatible with some of the newer roofing materials that are out there, and it will cause it to delaminate. But this is one of those interesting details and one of the challenges that we have whenever we're working on a roof like this, because on the opposite side of that newel, it's visible from the street. So whatever we do, we have to make sure that this thing is still watertight, it still looks good, it still fits well with the surrounding context when you can see it. Just looking at the rotunda, looking back at some of the patches that have desperately been needed over the years. This is a very simple kind of transition that's happening along there. And of course, high at the bottom lower left, you know, you need that every once in a while, something to brighten your day. And this is one of the worst offenders. This was right after we had one of those windstorms and it blew off the patches. The coating that's on the roof is really good at repelling water. But as soon as the coating fails, it's also really good at repelling patches. So it's kind of a challenge as we address whatever we can on this roof to keep anything on. I think Mr. Doherty would agree. It's been a challenge to keep enough patches on this thing and keep it going for long enough. So it is definitely time to repair. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump over now to the cost analysis. So we received bids on October 8th at 3 o'clock as expected. There was a 12% cost spread between the high and the low bidder, and you see the bid tabulation there that the high bid was $672,000, the low bid was $598,000. That difference between the bids tells us that we're really close in territory. So there's good information. It's just a matter of where they're sourcing some of that. A couple of points here I want to address. Why is this such an expensive roof? I hear it coming. I know it's coming, and it's one of the first questions. Tim and I saw all of this, and we started asking, oh dear, why is this such an expensive roof? Well, we asked the question and put that to some of the contractors as well, and we said, are there even some potential ways we could reduce this? And the short answer is not really. This is what is causing the expense on this project. The crane. There's limited access to the site on all 4 sides of the building. So the only way to get materials up to that roof is either to build scaffolding around the building or to use a crane. Scaffolding came in at about $160,000 if I have my figures correct. A crane was $100,000. So already we have a significant expense on the roof. On just equipment alone. We haven't even started putting anything on the roof yet. After that, there's also storage of materials on the roof. We cannot store materials on the roof. We are very concerned about the longevity of that brick or that clay tile roof deck structure. So we have to make sure that that is not exceeding its capacity and that we have failure. In addition to that, even moderate movement of that roof deck has potential to damage the suspended plaster ceiling that's below it. So any movement, we have to not just try and eliminate potential storage, we also have to minimize movement on that roof. So what they're doing is that they're not putting any more material than they can use in that day on the roof. And we're also testing that roof. We're making sure that the pull-off for all of that roof structure is going to be appropriate so that we don't have wind come and pick it up and it's damaged here in these cold winter months. Nobody wants any of that. There are also a lot of unique details to this roof that you saw there. Limestone gutter, you have a limestone balustrade and newels, limestone raking cornice, things that do not typically occur on normal roofs take more time to install. It's just the reality of it. And we even had to go back to the manufacturers to make sure that they would warrant all of this because it is so complex. So this system takes a little bit more time, but it's also something that we know needs to be done right. And recognizing that the labor, equipment, and general overhead costs represent a significantly greater portion of the project cost than a typical roof, we also want to make sure that this thing lasts. We don't want it to be a problem where, okay, we put a roof on here, it lasts for 15 years, now we need to come back and spend this kind of money again. Nobody wants to do that. So what we've done is we've gone with the Cadillac of roofing systems. Why the Cadillac of roofing systems? Because it lasts longer. So we had first looked at other roofing system types such as PVC, and they would not warrant past 25 years. And that system, while it's a great system, it's easier to install in cold weather. TPO is the other alternative, and it has a much longer roof warranty of 30 plus years. And our hope here, we have designed all of these details as much as we can to last longer than 30 years. We have slip sheets, we have hail-resistant cover board, additional ceilings and flashings. Whatever we can do to try and make this thing last longer. It's inexpensive to put that few percent more on that roof right now in terms of material costs, and it's way more expensive later if we have to replace it sooner. So the idea is that we have a longer lifespan, and we're getting a good life cycle cost out of it. In addition to all of that, because of the nature of the use of the facility and the potential for damage in case of failure, the county requested that the contractors raise their insurance limits to $5 million. And so that premium ultimately gets passed on to the county as part of the bill. But if something happens, which we really hope it doesn't, we want to make sure that we're covered. So these things definitely add a little bit to cost. Could we remove some of the additional prophylactics on the roofing structure? Yes, I suppose you could, but you're compromising a lot in integrity over the long term for a little bit of expense now on some of those things. So my guess is that you're probably adding between 2 to 5% for some of the extra things that we did here, and the maybe 5 years longer that we get out of it, very, very worth it. So those are the pieces that I kind of want to address about cost. And then finally, talking about schedule. As you saw, those big patches, Tim has been spending time even since then going back and patching and putting on more. This needs to be done as soon as possible. I've said it, everybody's aware of it. I think I'm sort of beating a dead horse by talking about it too much, but I think the point has been made. We really need to get this thing going as soon as possible. Western Specialty, who is the low bidder on the project, has provided a tentative construction schedule that can start as soon as this approval is made. So they are ready to go and get things ordered and start moving on the project. We just need to give them the go ahead. If, however, they are encountering any kind of inclement weather, they can make whatever repairs are necessary now and go ahead and pull off until such time that inclement weather clears. So they understand the need and they are able to address it. And with that being said, I appreciate my time and I won't take too much longer, but I'll open it up if there are any other questions.
Mr. Cernak, could you stop sharing your screen?
Yes. Let me stop. There we go.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's just easier to facilitate the meeting if I can see everyone's pictures a little bit clearer. Well, before we go into questions, let's get this on the floor. Could we get a motion for approval? Motion approval from Vice Chair Beard, a second from Member Johnston. Okay, questions or discussions from the committee? Vice Chair Beard.
Thank you. Hey, I appreciated especially the additional information we received earlier, knowing that it's very reasonable there'll be inclement weather in the next few weeks. I think addressing that is helpful to know that that won't set us too far back. And I am also completely supportive and understanding of the idea that paying a little more now for material cost is worth it. I don't know if, so that idea too is, to not have to do this to save 5 years at the end, that makes sense as well. A question is, cosmetically, you briefly addressed the integrity of the building from a period appropriate look. What should we, I know you can't really see the roof from the ground level, but what is this going to visually look like when we're done? And how is that look taken into consideration for the building, and how typical buildings of this era, old courthouses and whatnot, use for roofing?
Great question. So originally when this was constructed, it had an asphalt compound that was applied to the roof system. And what you do is that every few years you go back up there and mop some more asphalt. And it was nice and black and it was great. Didn't have a whole lot of reflectivity, caused a lot of streaking, however, when it got to the gutters and that kind of thing. So unfortunately, we won't be able to replicate the streaking of old roof systems when we put the new system on. It's also a little bit brighter up there because it's a white roof as opposed to being a darker or black roof. Now, TPO naturally comes in white, but it's heat welded, which is why we prefer this kind of system. And that white also reflects a lot of it, the heat coming off. And throughout the year, we already have a warm attic space. So we want to try and cool that off as much as we can. Now, having said all that, the edges, I think were your question. What can you see? Well, there will be some flashing that goes around some of those newels, and that flashing will be done in copper as opposed to stainless or some of the more modern materials, just coated aluminum, et cetera, et cetera. Because they will be visible, we wanted copper because it will patina out. It will color to be complementary to the rotunda.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Charnett. So the repairs that we're doing, is this mainly for leakage, or is any of this going to reinforce the strength of the roof? Because one of the concerns is that we can't put that many materials on after this is done in 35 years and there has to be work done. Is it going to be a more stable structure?
So what's going to happen is that there will be multiple layers of roofing system applied. We will have insulation, then what's known as a cover board applied on top of that insulation, and then the roofing membrane. The cover board will help to distribute the weight more evenly across that roof structure, but it's not going to change the condition of the roof structure underneath it. So it's going to retain whatever rigidity or whatever cracks or whatever's there right now. It doesn't look like there's any imminent danger or imminent failure. However, the moisture getting in from the roof above is getting onto the steel and causing it to corrode. So that ultimately could cause structural failure, which is our greatest concern. And then our second greatest concern is just as we put this thing back on, is it going to be a problem?
Any other questions from the committee? Mr. Doherty, do you have anything that you'd like to add? I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Doherty.
Chairman Barnett, if I may, I believe Member Thompson has a question first. If I may, I apologize.
Oh, yeah, that's quite all right. Thank you. I'll be glad when this pandemic is over. It's not nearly as fun to facilitate committee meetings when you're doing, Hollywood Squares as opposed to when we're in the government center. Member Thompson.
Thank you. So yeah, my question kind of goes along the same lines as Elizabeth's. Concerned with the tiles and just we deal with them out in our field tiles, 100-year-old tiles, and you break one and they're just, like you said, they're brittle. And you just go a long ways to find good. And so it's kind of the same thing. If you have a failure, I mean, it could be, do you have confidence that, hey, that maybe won't happen and
yeah,
you can stop it before it gets too out of control?
Right. Yeah. So the way that this roof system is built, it's built in sections between steel. So if an area were to fail, for instance, it would fail in it would be like half a quadrant of the roof. So it couldn't fail in an area much greater than that unless it were totally catastrophic, which the crane falls on the building, we got a much bigger problem. So that's not something that can be solved really easily. But in what we're likely to expect from all of this, I would expect that there might be little hairline cracks or this or that would be just minimal sort of things that wouldn't have any effect structurally. It would be just superficial. So I don't think we're going to have anything of that nature. Now, part of the other reason I believe that is that code allows us to add up to 5% of the capacity on the existing roof without having to re-engineer anything. And we're well below all of that. One of the concerns that they had when they came up with that piece of code was when you did a ballasted roof and you put gravel up there and you'd be putting it on a roof that wasn't designed to have gravel. There's a church across town that had gravel on their roof and it ended up collapsing. So I can tell you it happens. But we shouldn't have anything like that in this instance. It's a very light roof system. And this is all about making sure that we have the right system in place on top of it without it being a very heavy, very cumbersome system at all.
Okay, thank you. Additional question. You talked about if the weather changes, they have to pull off, or those kind of issues already addressed in, would there be additional costs with that, or is that already built into the bids? Or?
Yeah, it's built in. So what they did, I should say it's built in to an extent. What they did is they were able to acquire a monthly rate for their equipment. So they can say, all right, so if I have to pull off for a week or two, not a big deal. But if it extends past a month, I would expect that they would have additional costs for a crane. That's the one that's the big one, or some of their scaffolding for the stair tower.
Okay. One other final question. You kind of alluded to the fact that 30-year warranties. Realistically, is this a 30-year, 50-year? Just obviously, you're guessing. I understand, but
yeah, you're exactly right. I'm looking at my crystal ball and I'm saying it's a 40-year roof, probably. Our intent was to design it minimally for a 30-year and then go above and beyond and do the belt and suspenders approach, where we make sure that the areas we see potential failure, we are addressing now. So there are things like cant strips around the edge. Nobody really does a whole lot of cant strips, but our concern is that with cracking over time on a TPO system, just from UV rays hitting it day in, day out for 30+ years, you're expecting that thing to move a little bit over time. We want to try and limit that as much as possible. So those little kind of changes that we're making now, we're hoping to get 40, 50, as long as possible out of that roof system. Now, in addition to that, TPO is a single membrane roof system. So if you come back later, you don't recover this kind of thing. You just replace just the membrane. So we shouldn't have to go back with insulation and coverboard. We have maxed out what we can fit on that roof safely and still be able to get rid of rain and snow and sleet and all that other stuff. So we don't expect that we're coming back with new insulation unless there's a major failure of that roof system.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your information and details. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Doherty, did you have anything you wanted to share with the committee?
Just a couple things, Chairman. I wanted to remind, this is quite an intensive roof to redo. And of course, with any roof, we want to keep it watertight. That's where a lot of the damages come in, especially in the winter months when you get this clay tiles that absorb the moisture and then are prone to cracking due to the freezing. So there's that condition. While the numbers are high, if you prorate that out over 20, 30, 40 years, or the 30 years is the minimum warranty, we're looking at $20,000 a year. So if you spread that out, just kind of a different way to look at the math on it. The third thing I want to bring out is Charnett and Associates have been a perfect candidate for this project. We couldn't have picked a better engineering team. They have left no detail to be uncovered. I know Charnett and Associates have worked very close with Firestone to do all the right things to bring us that 30-year warranty. And there was no contractor through the walkthrough or the pre-bid meeting that, second guessed or brought up any other suggestions of any way to save money. So I've been very pleased. I think Administrator Rodriguez has too, that Charnett and Associates have delivered us a quality roof. That's all I have.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Charnett, I would echo that. I certainly appreciate you and your firm's devotion and understanding of the significance of this building, not just to the county, but to the community as a whole. And certainly appreciate your partnership and all that you've done to help us through this process to make sure that this, significant presence in downtown is maintained for generations to come.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's been an honor to work with you all on this, and we will continue to support it as we develop into construction. It is such an important building to me, but it's not just an important building, it's an important piece of our history as a community. And I'm just honored to be able to participate. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions from the committee? All right, hearing none. Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. Motion is approved. Thank you. Now we come to item 4B, 1D, and this is paying for the roof that we all just approved the plan for. Mr. Doherty, would you want to, or Administrator Rodriguez, would you want to talk through this at all, or?
I'd be happy to if Director Doherty doesn't mind. I know that this particular action item comes a little bit ahead of something else in the agenda, which is the amendment to the lease with PBC. But in this case, we received the monies from the PBC in form of a loan to pay for the services of Charnett and Associates, and this is representative of the movement of those dollars. And again, later in our discussions, we'll discuss the third lease amendment, which codifies sort of the commencement of the loan to start this project.
All right, would entertain a motion for approval from the committee. Motion by Member Thompson, second by Member Johnston. Any questions or discussions on this item? All right, seeing none, Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yeah.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. Motion is unanimously approved. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is 4B1E, request approval of recommended bid for animal control roof repair. Mr. Doherty, talk to us about animal control.
Animal control, sir, has two very prominent seams that are leaking and have been for over a year. I run into several roadblocks trying to find somebody to just come and coat this roof. I thought what sounded like a simple project turned out to be a nightmare. In my action comment sheet there, I went back out to K&K Coating. They were a low bidder on some previous projects for the county, and they did go out and look at the project, but they denied being able to bid this simply because of the type of roof it is. It's what's known as a raised seam metal roofing. And it's got something to do with how the coating is applied to this vertical seam. So finally, I beat the bushes long enough and I found this outfit in they're in Roseville, Illinois, and they specialize in this type of roof. They had no problems doing it, and he did suggest that we could address these two seams for us at this point with completing the remainder of the roof in the spring. We're just at that point in weather where we should have done it this week if we were going to do it, but with the weather going to turn off more seasonal here, it's best to wait till the springtime. So while this estimate came in a little higher than what we had allocated for funds, I do recommend that we go with this firm. They did present, which I didn't include here, they did present some photographs of buildings they have done, some farm buildings, and they look very promising. The only thing I haven't done that I maybe should have was call some of their clients for reference.
All right, I would entertain a motion for approval from the committee. Motion by Vice Chair Beard, second. Second by Member Thompson. Questions or discussion from the committee? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard?
Yes.
Member Johnston?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Thompson?
Yes.
Chairman Barnett?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Doherty, anything you'd like to highlight in your monthly report for us?
Just a few things, sir. We did try to pay attention to the animal shelter a little bit more than usual this year. We went out and cleaned out the gutters because that is a source of leakage backing into the building. You know, I've been talking about the electrical maintenance for 4 of our facilities. Yeah, I have made the decision to put that off until spring. The situation occurs that it's going to be a power outage issue, and that outage could take, 4 hours or better, depending on what we get into. And I'm just a little bit pessimistic about the weather, and the building's going cold. So I'm going to regroup and encumber the monies from this year into next year and tackle these electrical maintenance projects next spring. Everything else has been pretty much status quo. We have been scrambling to get winter maintenance done. As far as heating apparatus, we did turn over the morgue cooler this past month, and the coroner is very happy with that project, the turnout of it. So, and lo and behold, I can comment about the 5 air handler units under the Law and Justice header there. We have found, having to turn the air conditioning back on this week, that there is a glitch out there somewhere. We're going to have to bird dog it a little bit more, but when we turned off all the chillers and the air conditioning equipment about 2 weeks ago, we noticed that we gained back all these controls. We could monitor the controls for these 5 air handlers. Then this week, we reversed that process and turned on the chiller plant again for air conditioning, and our problems have returned. So we got a pretty good idea of where to look now. It's just going to take a little bit more labor on our behalf. So maybe this is not the Grim Reaper knocking at our door that we first thought it was. We did have a boiler inspection in October, and everything went well. We've also had some routine water inspections as far as backflow preventer testing and abandoned lines, plumbing lines, that sort of thing. We did fine on that. So I'm still down as far as personnel go. I'm still down 2 people. I've got that posting out there till the end of this week. And surprising, I'm getting very few candidates to apply for the positions. So I'd like to have some more boots on the ground, but my pickings have been very slim. That's about all I have to report, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to walk through that with us.
No problem.
Okay, item 4C, Ms. Rodriguez. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I had to unmute.
You're
Yeah, I've
fine.
offered to help Mr. Doherty, but he said no thanks. So no, I'm joking. I'm joking. I probably can't help him at all do those amazing things they do in facilities management. On to a list of things, and I'd like to forecast Chairman Barnett and to the membership that administration feels that we could group together C1C and the subparts and C1D and its subparts. I'm forecasting ahead to those a little bit. That'll help us get through it if it so pleases you, Chairman Barnett, and the committee.
Just to clarify, C and its subparts could be one motion, and D and its subparts could be one motion, or C and D together could be.
The first one you said.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So the first item that I have for action is item C1A, request approval of the third capital improvement agreement by and between the Public Building Commission and McLean County, found on pages 22 through 28 of your packet.
All right. Member Johnson, was that a motion for approval? Okay, motion by Member Johnson, second by Vice Chair Beard. Questions or discussion about this from the committee? Vice Chair Beard.
Thank you. And I guess relating to the previous discussion on the roof, I want to make sure I'm thinking about this correctly, that with the new roof expense, we are really adding that into our existing PBC relationship and agreement, and then paying that off over the length of the existing PBC relationship, the PBC loan, correct?
Yes, to an extent. What I didn't explain well prior to my presentation of this action item, Vice Chair Beard, and to the membership, in this particular third capital improvement agreement, I approached the PBC to commence the third capital improvement agreement utilizing only the fee for Charnett and Associates. They should be paid. They've done amazing work, and I didn't want to hold that until we then made the subsequent decisions relative to the work on the roof and the bid. So where the nuance is, and the PBC is aware of this, and they were in agreement, is that we'll actually amend this third capital improvement agreement to include the bid amount. And so we may have to bring one more document, but we wanted to keep the movement going on these actions. And yes, then this will be a loan with the PBC, 0 interest, and the payments will not begin until the following year. So this just amends our existing lease and adds the responsibility of paying the price of the bid plus the fee for Charnett and Associates to do all of the architectural and work and the construction oversight.
Okay, thank you. And we have the courthouse is by itself. It's not grouped with any other of the PBC loans that we have, right?
Right. I would be remiss to say I'm absolutely sure, but I do know that the other loans, for example, that we have taken to complete the work in 200 West Front for the elevators are separate and apart from this. This would codify this particular action.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Burnett.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Administrator Rodriguez, back to you.
Thank you, Chairman. My next item is item C1B, request approval of the Farnsworth proposal for construction administration at the McLean County Nursing Home, a cover memo, and the proposal found on pages 29 through 38 of your packet.
And this is moving forward finally with the work that we've been talking about out of the nursing home for quite some time now, that Farnsworth has been doing for us.
If I may, ahead of any motions, I can simply state that it is a challenge for county administration to oversee construction projects. And what we learned was Farnsworth assisted in the RFP process for the electrical and sprinkler work. And we have chosen the bidder that we represented to you and other committees in the full board. To get the work done, however, and ensure it's the oversight of the construction, the documents, all of those things, we're asking that Farnsworth assist further because it just is a challenge when we have the museum roof. I'm sure this committee knows of the Fairview project. I'm actually overseeing that one at this point, and then this one in particular, which is distinctly a pressure point for us because of the weight of the survey from CMS and our need to get this done in a timely manner. So thank you for that opportunity to expound on why this is important to county administration.
Thank you. Entertain a motion for approval from the committee. Or any other motion the committee would care to entertain. A motion by Member Thompson, second by Member Johnston. Any questions or discussion on this for Administrator Rodriguez? Okay, hearing none, Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Burnett.
Yes. Approved. Thank you. Administrator Rodriguez, if you're comfortable with this for C1 and 2, I would certainly be open to you providing comments and remarks on these items on the budget, and then we can move into a motion from the committee and go to questions and discussion after that, if that works for you.
It surely does. I'll just provide then in reference to those before I formally read them. Really, this is part of the budget process, but the nuance and what makes it different from other parts of the budget presentations that you may have experienced in this committee or others is it's simply codifying some of the other things you have already set forth in recommendations. So that's the nuance of working with the PBC and the lease. And so some of the especially in C, well, also in C and in D, these are portions of the budget that pieces of it have already been discussed with you in regards to those buildings, and yet we have a separate portion of it that discusses the PBC. I hope I'm making sense. I'm a morning person, so I want to make sure you're understanding what I'm saying. But I would be happy to answer any questions. And Ms. Dreyer is also in the government center there to answer any questions too.
And this is pretty routine with the property committee budget each year. We approve our main budget at the October meeting, and we usually approve this PBC section in November. So everyone should be fairly familiar with this. But is there a motion from the committee to move 4C, 1C, 1 and 2 together? Motion by Vice Chair Beard, second. Second by Member Thompson. Any questions or discussions with Administrator Rodriguez on these items? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
Member Johnston,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yeah.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Barnett.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you all. Administrator Rodriguez, I'd turn it back over to you for 4CD.
Yes, a similar activity. This committee is likely used to these presented to them as well and to you in November. And this is to do with the operations and maintenance for the PBC with the PBC and the reimbursement that we receive in regards to providing the operations and maintenance. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, motion for approval of 4C, D, sub-items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Motion by member Johnston, second by member Thompson. Any questions or discussion from the committee? All right, hearing none, Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
member Johnston,
Yes.
member Smith,
Yes.
member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Administrator Rodriguez, I'll turn it back over to you for the last item there.
I just present to the committee our report on recent employment activities. One custodian was hired that is associated with this particular committee. A lot of movement in justice and health, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, item 5 on our agenda. Moving on, other business and communications come before the committee. Okay, we'll keep rolling. Number 6, recommending payment of bills and transfers to the full board. I have in front of us, and all of you should have received this with your packet, a prepaid total of bills that have been certified by the county auditor for a total of $457,000.32. We look to a motion to approve those from the committee. Motion by member Thompson, second. Second by member Johnston. Any questions or discussion from the committee? All right, hearing none. Ms. Morlock, please call the roll. The chair will vote.
Member Beard,
Yes.
member Johnston,
Yes.
member Smith.
Yeah.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Chairman Barnett.
Yes. Motion approved. Thank you. All right, seeing nothing else on our agenda, we move to item 7, which is adjournment. So thank you all very much for your service to the county, and we will see you soon. Have a good night.